And good evening. Welcome to Exalted Illusions. I'm what's left of cat ramen because I celebrated my birthday this year by getting sick. um. Anyway, I'm going to introduce people because otherwise this is going to take forever. So why don't we start tonight with someone I'm always happy to have at my table, and the dark dramatic half of our bright melodramatic chorus. So please let's welcome Leandro, who's playing Natalia Sviatoslavna Lenskaya.
Hi, yeah, so my name's Andrew, use he, him pronouns. I'm playing the aforementioned Countess Natalia Svatoslavovna Lenskaya, who, last time we saw her, she was just drunkenly pouring her heart out to her good old friend slash rival slash counterpart Stas, and I ran off to an incredibly foolhardy attempt to get back with her ex. It's and I haven't decided how that went. So I guess we'll figure it out. Also, because it's the finale, expectations have been set, and I don't know if I'll live up to them, but I'm gonna give it a shot. The last one was a doozy. Honestly, the last two ones were doozies, from opposite ends of emotional torment and heartbreak. I'm just saying right now, I have to live up to something now.
We've had relatively few casualties when you think about it over the years. I mean, relatively few of us have died. I mean, is like Connie the only main who actually died in one of these? I don't know. Probably. Oh Lord. So why don't we go next to our counterpart to our dear Natalia, in a way, the bright melodramatic part of the core of this group. So please let's welcome Daryl, and they are playing the princess Vasalisa Ivanovna Krasnogradskaya Volkhova. Oh yeah, that's right. Now with 35% better pronunciation.
So, hello. I am playing Vasya, who kind of has been through the ringer of her own design lately. So, in our very first episode, she set her sights on the lovely and poetic Count Ilya, while completely ignoring any kind of expectations that she may have set with dear Sergei. And that went in her favor so long as no one was paying too close of attention. The only person who suffered was her long-suffering mother, Babette. Basically, Vasia was just having the time of her life, getting to flirt, getting to write poetry, getting to romanticize after the dashing young count. And then Sergei showed up and proposed marriage, and then suddenly Vasya was put between the things that she was doing and having a great time for, and then the very heavy expectations of her family and society, and she was very much caught in a place where she did not know how to move forward because she felt that to pursue her heart would be to let down her family in an unforgivable way, but to follow what her family wished for her would maybe be closing off any potential chance she had for happiness in the future. So that culminated in a very tender scene with her mother Babette at a ball where I'm still not sure what she's going to do, but she knows full well that her mother's love is enduring, and that no matter what decision she makes, that her mother will do her best to support her. But it's not just her mother or her she has to think about, and that's Vasya.
Self-awareness? What? No, we can't have that.
In a character I play? What?
If our characters suddenly start becoming self-aware, they won't be, garbage fires with Russian accents. What would we do then? We wouldn't know what to do. Oh Lord. Speaking of garbage fires with Russian accents, this is not a comment on him, but our dearest friend, our dearest friend Serafina, who has stuck with me through all of these. My goodness, uh, cannot express my gratitude enough, except to introduce the lovely Count Ilya Ilyich Rostov, who is, a charming, charming young man with absolutely no fecklessness whatsoever.
Yeah, my dear sweet precious little nugget of a boy, he decided that in order to prove himself to be, worthwhile as a human being and as a potential romantic choice, that he should go ahead and join the army because he didn't have any other prospects really going for him, and we're gonna find out in this final act how that went. I have some weird predictions. Um, and oh yeah, that's him, and I'm Serafina. um, she, him, and that's all.
That's not all by any stretch of the imagination, but it's enough to start with. And finally, my very dear friend, back with us at home at last. So please let's welcome Richard, who is playing the Prince Stanislav Vadimovich Kuznetsov.
Hi, I'm Richard. I use he, him pronouns, and I am playing Stas, who also uses he, him pronouns. And Stas is uh, in the proud tradition of Russian literature. He is an impoverished prince. Very proud tradition, started by Tolstoy, or possibly even older than Tolstoy. Uh, he is working as an instructor and tutor at a school for young women run by his dear friend and older cousin Babette. And the bad decision that Stas has made, the incredibly poor decision that Stas has made, was to ask his lover where they stood in the relationship. And as we all know, in literature, as in life, that frequently does not get you the answer you were looking for. But define the relationship in Russia in this economy, and now Stas is strangely single. Imagine that, and trying to determine whether he's just going to live the rest of his life impoverished, as a teacher at a school, or if he's going to do something reckless and foolish.
Reckless? Foolish?
One of my characters, except for Tolya, who was a garbage fire, who was completely aware that he was a garbage fire because it was cheaper than paying for firewood. He was a playwright. Frequently my characters just make sad, lingering choices, and we'll see if that pattern holds.
But Tolya was sweet.
Tolya was very, very sweet.
Yes. Yeah, that's why we had a happy ending. You and I were friends. That's how this works now. That's the law, apparently. Hi, I'm Kat. I had the idea to do these, and I keep dragging these people back, and they are very kind to come and do these with me. And these are some of my favorite games to play during the year. And I'm playing the Princess Yelizaveta Nikolaevna Volokova, but she goes by Babette. Because she is old school Russian and speaks French as her first language. It helped that she was raised in France for a while too. And Babette is, she had her happy ending, but life didn't end up. It turns out that life goes on after your happy ending, and now she doesn't know how to give happy endings to her children. And this is frustrating to her on a deep and philosophical level. But then again, butter is frustrating to Babette on a deep and philosophical level. So, life will go on. She'll be fine, folks. Everybody's going to be fine. Okay. Right, I did a thing, so I'm going to take that now. So unless we left off, we had finished our novel chapter. So we're in epistolary. Does anyone have a letter? I suppose we should talk briefly about where we're going to go next. It is my fond, perhaps foolish belief that we'll get both novel chapters in tonight because, sure. And if we manage that trick, what would we like to do for times a year? Do we want to do a spring or summer chapter next? Do we want to just keep it all tight and it's all in the same winter? I don't know, but that's something to think about.
A
I'd
tight
like a little
timeline in
time to have
Russia?
passed. Yeah.
A tight timeline in Russia?
Well, yeah, I know. I know.
I'd like a little bit of time to have passed because then I
Yeah.
can.
So maybe let's plan for something like in the spring. Maybe we can go to country estates and then maybe come back for summer or winter or fall, something like that.
Are we getting close to Easter?
We could be getting close to Easter, yeah. And Great Lent, as they call it in Russia, because they have multiple Lents. Just, I mean, there's Orthodox churches, and then there's the Russian Orthodox Church. Okay. So yeah, does anyone have a letter they wish to put out there in the world?
Okay, well, I was going to write this letter later. I wanted someone else to lead, but I might as well do it now. This is always the problem. It's like I want to build up the dramatic influence, and everyone's just like, do. And I'm like, okay, fine. So to Count Ilya Ilyich Rostov from the Princess Vasalisa Ivanovna Krasnogradskaya Volkova. Dear Count, it has been many moons since you have departed for the front. Strike that. It's been many moons since you have departed on your tour of duty. And I have received no word of you or your well-being. I suppose that is to be expected, as I have returned the favor with silence of my own. It has been a long and cold winter. My family has retreated once again to the hospitality of my mother's friend Lydia, for a time at least, and I have had many, many days and dark nights to think. Count, I do not know how to speak formally to you after we spoke so candidly in the past. I understand that our situation now demands a certain amount of formality, a certain amount of shortness, a certain amount of honoring of old ways that feel out of step with the rapport that we had built. I do not know that this letter will even reach you. I do not know that this letter will even be opened by you. I do not know that you will not consign it to the flame where it surely belongs, because I do not know why I am writing it. Everyone around me continues to talk and talk and talk about weddings, about their weddings, about the weddings they plan to attend, about the weddings they have attended, about the weddings that they will no longer be attending. And all through this, I think of the wedding that I am supposed to be planning. Please do not think me callous to write you to discuss these things, for you are the only person I feel I can be truly honest with. I am at a loss for what to do. I do not wish to marry Sergei, but I do not wish to bring upon him and upon myself the contempt that will surely find us if I were to call it off. I fear the reputation that I will surely build for myself if I am seen to so recklessly and brazenly shake off men one after the other. It is not so easy for me to call off an engagement to a perfectly lovely person and move about the world as if I have done nothing wrong. I hope that you can understand that in this situation, I feel like I have truly lost. There is no way for me to find my way back to where we were last summer. And if I could, I would do it all over again. I can offer no explanation. I can offer no excuse. I can offer nothing other than to say that I am greatly pained by every moment that has passed over the past seasons. And Ilya, I expect nothing from you. I expect no response. I expect no sympathy. I expect no kindness. I expect nothing. I merely needed someone to tell. Basta.
From Staff Captain Antonin Maras to the Prince Stanislav Veniaminovich Kuznetsov. My dear Prince, you think it no doubt churlish that it has been so long since I last wrote you, but the condition of our relations were such prior to my departure that, well, never mind. It doesn't really matter. My affairs, as you know, have taken me out of Russia for a brief period of time. I brought young Katavasov with me. When we arrived in London, he had that dazed look that I think only your countrymen get when they finally go abroad. His English was lacking, to say the least, but French will get you by pretty far in Londres, even if the inhabitants so steadfastly refuse to speak it. Do you know that I ran into the Countess Natalia while I was there? She was on her way to Paris, and we were at a ball together at the Russian embassy. She seemed distracted, almost flushed, but as always, was an excellent dancer. I also, you will be happy to know and can inform your cousin that I did call upon her other daughter, who is at school. She much more resembles her mother than the Princess Vasalisa, I think. She has that same bookish and reserved air. She is a student of some sort. She showed me her album book, which is full of sketches of English churches and English countrysides, and the occasional Scottish moor for variety. But she seemed quite charming. I will pass on to you an interesting bit of gossip. Perhaps you will know what to think of it, but I brought Katavasov with me, and yet he refused to go into the house with me and stayed out on the street, very studiously looking at his feet and wicking and running a twig against an iron fence. I don't understand it. When I mentioned to young Svetlana that I had indeed come with a Sergei Katavasov, she grew quite flushed and strange. Odd portents, but these bookish Russian girls abroad are a strange tribe. I have labored long and hard to provide you with the example of a love letter that you requested from me, and I find that I am not presently equal to the task. It's not because I lack tendresse or that I have no such feelings that can be expressed, I find that the gap between those feelings and what I can actually express, what I am comfortable committing to ink and parchment, is too great to overcome right now. And that saddens me because I think they are words that you would like to hear from a purely academic viewpoint, I'm sure. Perhaps when I return to Russia, and if I do take up your cousin's offer to visit you in the country, perhaps then I can deliver those sentiments in a form that will be more acceptable for you to hear. I wish I were back in Russia, which is a statement said by relatively few Western Europeans, but there you have it. I miss you quite terribly, old man. Yours most affectionately, Antonine.
I'm gonna give this a shot. To the Princess Vasalisa Ivanovna Krasnogradskaya Volkova. Lease. I must apologize for my long silence. It is nearly impossible to get letters through. Even though we are not currently at war, I believe that there is some sort of, I don't know, battle going on between the mail carriers and the very land itself. At any rate, I finally received your letter, much later than I would have liked. You are correct that you answered my silence with silence, but eventually one of us has to break it, and you were the bigger person, for which I'm grateful. The military is, well, it's what I expected, and not what I expected at the same time. I'm being pushed in ways that I did not know I needed to be pushed, and learning things that I did not know I needed to learn. I'm sorry that you are suffering. My plan is to be home in the spring, and perhaps you and I might speak in person about certain matters that you've alluded to in your letter. That is, if a certain wedding has not already taken place. I would not want you to put yourself in the way of harm in terms of your reputation. Indeed, I would do nearly anything to make sure that does not happen. But perhaps we can come up with a solution together. I recognize that it does not feel as though there is a way out for you in this moment. But as I sit here outside of this very dismal tent, the sky is turning pink with sunrise, and the birds are serenading me. And I am thinking about how, even in the midst of the drear of our everyday lives and the darkness that seems to loom from all sides, the sun keeps coming up. I remain very sincerely yours, Ilya.
To my dear cousin Babette. There is because I don't know how this would have been handled at the time, we're just going to call it a bit of newspaper attached to the letter. This is difficult to discuss, but if I cannot discuss it with you, who in this family can I possibly send it to? I have always loved Moscow. And yet, I think part of that love for Moscow was knowing that I would one day leave Moscow. I had thought for an extended period of time I would be leaving to find a life for myself in Prague. And as you know, while the principal motivation for that plan that seemed so imminent has vanished, I find that I am deeply enchanted by the city. I am attaching an advertisement for a post at the St. Ludmila School of Bohemia. Sorry, St. Ludmila of Bohemia School. For an instructor position that I believe I would be qualified for. And I do hope that you will consider recommending me. It does begin in the fall. A bit later than our start, and so I should be able to continue my duties throughout the summer. This is not the circumstances that I had planned to leave my home country, but I do believe that I should stop waiting for other people to make plans for me. I look forward to speaking to you at your earliest convenience. I do hope that you and the girls have enjoyed your time in the country, preparing for Easter. And I look forward to seeing you on your return. But I'd wanted to discuss this with you without surprising you at that time, since I know I should act with some relative haste. If I wish to secure this posting, I look forward to any advice you can give. Your cousin, Stas.
I have one. To Natasha from your mother. To the Countess Natalia Svyatoslavovna Lenskaya. In text that is practically scratched through the paper that it is written on. Natalia, I know that you have been getting my letters. I know because I have heard of very many people who have been crossing your paths as you gallivant across Europe. I know that you have not been responding to my letters because I have been hearing from those same people that you laugh every time they mention me. I know that you take after your aunt, but I am telling you now that it must come to an end. You are to return to Russia at your earliest convenience. And when I say convenience, I don't mean when it is convenient. I mean immediately. This must end. You must come back. I have tried to repair the damage to your reputation that has come from Ilya Ilyich throwing you over. And now I think I have finally found a way through it. So please return to Moscow and meet the man that I would have you begin a new arrangement with. I'm sure that we can spin the idea of your adventures across Europe as a educational, enlightening experience, one where you learned all of the various different new musical aspects and can probably recite some sort of obscure French play or poetry or something. We will find a way to make this simple, but it requires your presence. I require your presence. Looking forward to seeing you very soon. Your mother, Countess Sofia Viktorovna Lenskaya.
Just gonna quickly scan through our connections, see where this possibility is gonna come from. Okay, dearest Slava, I'm sorry that it seems to be that you have become the recipient of pretty much all of. Sorry, that's how I wanted to go. Dear Slava, no doubt, given the rapidity and frequency that I've been writing to you, this will probably come at the end of a pile of notes dashed towards yourself. And I suppose I apologize if I've already tired you with the 50th description of the 50th salon or gathering over here in Paris. No doubt I've driven into your skull perhaps every description of every street corner worth mentioning here in this city. Well, I'm here to tell you that all that is going to come to an end soon. Finally, my mother has decided to pull pull this chain of a familial obligation and pull me back to Russia. No doubt some sort of fate has been prepared upon my arrival. And well, honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to it in its own way. I do want a chance to speak with you when I come back. You probably may have noticed that in my numerous correspondence, I had not mentioned the outcome of why I came here. Well, to be honest, I am somewhat afraid that perhaps words on paper won't do it justice. So I suppose I will just tell you in person. Not that it's something to look forward to, let me assure you. It's just, well, I'd rather speak than write, if that makes sense. At any rate, I hope to see you soon. You're, as always, your dear friend, Natasha.
My dearest friend, Natasha, I do hope this letter reaches you before you leave London. It's come to my attention that the local libraries that I have access to have not picked up an English novel that I think I should have, as well as they are very short on novels by one Mr. Disraeli, who claims or seems to believe himself the heir to George Gordon, Noel Byron, Lord Byron. And I, as an outsider to English literature, believe I am uniquely qualified to see if that is indeed true. There's also a good bit of noise in the foreign press about something called the Pickwick Papers. And if you could acquire that, I would be most appreciative. I do hope you'll be home soon. I think it is time for me to do something interesting. And I should like your opinions on items that might qualify. Hopefully next year you will be writing me while you are in Russia and I am abroad, so that we may continue to exchange correspondence, and I can repay you by sending you something that you will find that you might need. I miss you. Everyone's being far too nice to me, and I'm becoming bored with it myself. Yours, Stas.
To the Count Andrei Vasilev. Dear Andrusha, well, Easter is approaching, and so we are descending once more upon your estate, though this time I am bringing the entire gang with me. I'm sure that we shall be as the locusts of ancient tales and eat you out of hearth and home, though you deserve it for having been so shockingly absent in the past. I joke, but things are unsettled. Vasalisa seems intent to discover some brand new vista of psychological illness. She's gone beyond making herself physically ill and has now come around the other side where her health improves daily, and yet there's a strange glassiness to her eyes. It does not seem right that my daughter should feel she is walking the plank. Yet, to square this circle, it would take a Euclid, and I was never good at geometry. Everything is falling apart, actually, Andre. Louis is still off somewhere in the mud and toil of our Eastern Empire. Natalie has fled to Paris. I don't know if she'll ever come back, though I've heard rumors that her mother is yanking her chain to bring her back to Russia, but I fear there's too much of the Morozov blood in her, and this will only ever be temporary before she flees us again. And I, as much as I quite like the Countess in the brief intercourse we have had, I can't say I blame her. That Russia itself may be too small for a girl of her spirit. Stas has announced his intention to leave me and flee to Prague, though I don't think he's chasing his young man anymore. I don't know how that all fell apart. They seemed such good, they seem to be doing so well. Perhaps I've lost my touch. It's been quite some time since I had a matchmake among the intimate affairs of my Athenian relatives. As for me, oh, what can your little sister say? I am as I always am. Half anxiety, half rapture, and half a philosophy book with legs. Perhaps it was a mistake for me to ever get married and have children, since I clearly have no idea what to do in either of those two roles. Schoolmarm was always my best destiny, and at least I have that, though I should note that this year they have decided to pay rather less of their tuition than they did the previous 2 semesters, so we can toss that one onto the old anxiety heap as well. Very well. I shall stop. You will have your chance to berate me in person for being the worrywart that I have always been since that first time I met you. And thought you were the most handsome man that I had ever seen, and I was eating paste. And really, it has never improved since, Andre, between you and me. It has never really gotten much better than that initial meeting. I'm still the girl who eats paste around you, and you're still the most handsome man in all of Europe. Perhaps you'll cheer me up, as you always do. Also, I do honestly need new outriders. the ones we saw at the horse fair, I ended up not buying, and that was a mistake. Now these two are worn out and spavined already, and poor General Kutuzov just sort of regards them with the air of a great general staring at his worn-out army and not knowing exactly how things have come to this state of affairs, but determined to carry on anyway. I look forward to seeing you soon. Yours, your most beloved sister, who really, really needs to get out of Moscow for some period of time. Do we have any more letters? 3 of us have gone twice. One person has declaimed the second letter. So that would be Leandro. If you have another letter or not, then we'll move on.
I don't have the vaguest idea, but I think in the interest of time, let's just move on.
All right, then. So let's do an abbreviated upkeep. If you want to look at your inner conflicts. It's going to be novel time, though. Yes, Daryl, that could be you're out. You may remember that is a rumor, and it was spread.
Yeah, just as I am deciding in my heart of hearts that I know what needs to be done, that Ilya is also deciding in his heart of hearts what needs to be done.
Oh, no. Yeah, what is to be done is the name of several important works in Russian literature, the most important of which is Chernyshevsky's somewhat didactic novel of socialists and love, I think, basically. But Tolstoy also wrote What is to be Done. Alrighty, novel chapter time. How do I do this? We got a request for it to be around Easter. As previously established, Babette always visits her brother Andre's farm for Easter, so that's definitely a thing we could do. I have an idea for a kind of weird visit, but so I don't know how we want to structure this, but it could definitely be our normal series of people running in around. I mean, whatever chapters we end up doing, they all end up being visit chapters, I think.
That's true.
What are folks thinking? Is Svetka kind of returned to us from England?
I mean, it has to have some reason to run into Sergei so that they can have unresolved tension that I will be completely oblivious to.
I'm okay with that.
I could definitely play Svetka.
But not if we
Oh, no, I'm playing
Sergei.
Sergei.
Yeah.
I can't play Svetka.
Can I play Svetka?
I was going to say that would seem to be the correct way that this should go.
Like, yeah, I think we got this.
All right, Daryl, why don't you make that as your connection? Don't feel too beholden to what Antonin said in his letter, but probably that could be right, that she's the more bookish of the two sisters.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, Ilya, you're a soldier now, huh?
Yep.
I'm just I have half an idea that you would be in Nikolai's regiment, but maybe not. But here's my weird
I like that.
Yeah. I don't know if we need to have Nikolai on camera, but you could be in his regiment. So this is my weird idea for a visit. You're in your barracks, and you're like, because it's peacetime army camp, your barracks are not like tents. They're like houses that are probably being rented by the officers from the nearby area.
Yeah.
And you hear all these soldiers start running past the house. They're going, "She's here! Our lady's here!"
Oh my god, and it's Babette.
Of course, Babette wearing a retailored version of her father's old uniform, including his Star of St. George. She's standing up in her troika, going, "What? Are there any actual hussars in this regiment? My old General Kutuzov here outraced the 3 or 4 nags I saw trying to catch up with us." And all the soldiers immediately break out into laughing. And she hops down like, "Hello, boys. How are you all doing?" And starts handing out like little bits of money.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, of course I come, walking out of the barracks a little disoriented because I wasn't expecting the hubbub. And of course walk over and salute you.
Well, Ensign Rostov, yes?
Indeed. Princess, it is so good to see you. Such an unexpected pleasure.
Well, this regiment was my father's regiment when he was first coming up, and as the terms of his will were to provide for the soldiers once a year. So I am a bit of their patroness.
Well, of course. Would you like to find your way inside? The officers' barracks are quite well appointed, I assure you.
Well, they should
As I'm
be,
sure you
with
know.
what I paid for. Boys, excuse me, I'm going to go talk with this ensign. They're like, "You're talking with an officer!"
Yeah, so he leads you inside, and would you like some tea, coffee?
Oh, tea. I would expect a good Russian officer would always have a samovar waiting.
Of course. And he like prepares everything because it's military. He doesn't have anybody doing this stuff for him.
And how are you finding the army life, Count?
I thought it would be, if I may be candid, far more misery than it actually is.
Most army life is boring tasks of repetition.
I find that to be true, but also being in charge of others and learning about oneself when one runs into moments of difficulty. The things that you learn when you have to ask people to do things that they would rather not, or that you would rather not. And the way that one must do things one would rather not in order to make it seem palatable to others.
Then I see you have been gambling. It is the army disease. Well, I mean, the one that is genteel for ladies to talk about.
Not so much gambling, Princess, but indeed I have been taking interpersonal risks. And he sort of lays the tea out and pours for you.
Not gambling. What are they teaching you Russian officers these days? In my day, an army officer wasn't considered worth his salt until he had lost at least 10,000 rubles once in his life on a single card.
Only 1,000, and that was quite enough for me.
Count, you are threatening to become boring.
I would sincerely hope not. I will endeavor to keep you entertained until your husband returns.
Entertained. Would it be indiscreet of me to ask if my daughter has written you?
I think who your daughter writes is very much your concern, don't you?
I might think that. My husband is perhaps of two minds on that matter. My daughter thinks that not only should I not know who she writes to, I should not know what she eats, what she chooses to wear that morning, where she is at any point during the day.
Well, the relationship between parents and children is a little different. She has written me.
I see. And you do not think that's somewhat intemperate?
Princess, can I ask you something?
I doubt very much I could prevent you in any case.
I am an officer in the army. If I am given a command, I will obey it. Within
Sadly,
reason.
princesses have never been in the chain of command since Catherine went on to her reward.
Well, you will forgive me if I consider most women to be higher than I am on the chain of command. At least that's what my father always taught me.
You're already henpecked. You'll make a good Russian husband after all.
No, is it intemperate to love someone?
It's been my general experience that very much matters on the nature of the lovers. Is it intemperate for a wife to be in love with another man? Probably. Is it intemperate for two men to love each other? So the church says. I myself have known of a very stable group of 3 to 5 people who get along famously, though they commit all sorts of sin.
I know you have not always thought very well of me, but I am asking if there is ever a world that you could see where that might change.
So being a mother means that one is constantly of two minds. On the one hand, you wish your children to be happy and have the things that they want. On the other, you must also be their mother and prevent them from loving the things that will hurt them. I am not sure which category you belong in, Count. You will at least acknowledge that I have reasons for such an emotion.
Of course. No human is without fault, and I certainly have mine.
In terms of your personal character, I have occasionally found it wanting, but I have also noticed that you are a person of not only spirit, but good spirit. Far be it from me.
Sort of stops before he gets the cup to his lips, and like you can see him start to glow a little.
After all, far be it from me to criticize people for falling in love with a dashing young army poet.
Well, the army part was new.
Well,
but I take your meaning.
My husband was a poet, you know.
Yes, we've talked about it.
Yes. Yes. When I was nursing him back to health in Moscow during the occupation, I discovered that he had been not only writing poetry, but he had begun writing poetry in very halting Russian. It was an endearing moment, I should have you know. I probably fell in love with him then. Fortunately for me, he saw me quite often in moonlight, which is generally, obviously darkness is generally flattering to my features in any case, but...
Princess, you do yourself a disservice.
Well, perhaps. You don't know what it was like.
No, I don't.
Yes.
But you are a person of character.
Ah, I thought you were going to say spirit, and perhaps even good spirit.
No, I don't like to reuse the lines that people feed me.
Ah, true poet. Do you search your verses for anything that Pushkin may have written and scratch them out if you find them?
Have you been peeking in my window?
I've known too many poets.
Well, most of us are. Strange, irascible types.
Ah, well, Nikolai is young and hot-blooded. I should be careful around him. We have not explained everything about his sister. Nikolai generally cares very little for the home affairs. He's very focused on his career.
Well, occasionally he teaches me things by showing me what not to do.
Hmm.
But often, because he was, I believe, raised quite well.
Well, perhaps, though of all my children, he is the one most like my father.
Is that a problem?
No, just my father, the Prince Nikolai, fought 6 duels before he received his first commission as a captain.
6.
It was a different time.
My goodness, I haven't even fought one. What kind of gentleman am I?
Well, we will find out if you ever do fight one, won't we?
Well, indeed.
I mean, obviously they're a stupid barbaric custom, and I would hope you not fight one.
Of course. Not without good reason.
My brother fought a duel once.
Hmm.
Yes, with a friend of the family's. Well, perhaps not his family, but I have a fondness for Count Vladimir Vladimirovich. He's a silly but earnest man.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate your candor.
Oh, my dear Count, I think you can always count on me for candor. It's what makes me so popular among all my friends.
You know, my lady, I do believe that to be true.
Well, before I go,
Hmm.
I believe you must give Vasalisa room to make up her own mind. I've already told her I will support her in any decision she chooses to make, but I don't think she knows yet exactly what the criteria for making that decision will be.
I believe you're right.
I generally am. Everyone tells me so.
And this is why you outrank me.
Well, don't be fooled. The Order of St. George here is my father's, not mine, but I have been told I would have made a canny tactician.
That's a good. I just want to hang out with Babette.
All right, who's next on the old visit train?
I would love to be reunited with my younger sister and then also to cross paths with my fiance. Okay, so I guess we are at Andre's farm. Perhaps you have just arrived. Does that sound interesting for Svetlana to roll in?
Yeah. Yeah, I think like definitely like sped down as like a later arrival. Maybe yourself and Babette have already been there for a bit. Wow, so remember again because I was expecting to play her. What was she? Where was she when she ran into Antonin and
England. She's been studying in England. My
Mm,
assumption is probably art, but you can fill in the details however you'd like.
yeah. Yeah. So I think like she's only just back like recently, and maybe we can cut into like tea, and she is talking about let me just double check. Yes, she's talking about a mathematics paper that she's read recently on prime counting functions. Um, and she's so I know you said art, but then because it's on that wrote maths. All right, okay, we'll go with that. Um, and she's talking about how, oh, I'm sure it hasn't been elucidated quite yet how such functions would have applications in terms of how it could affect one's practical goings on in life. But it's a good step, I'd like to think, and there are several branches of thought that could spring forth out of it. But well, my mind's I don't believe my mind's fully learned enough to imagine such branches, but I'm glad to know that uh, possibilities can exist, even if I don't have the means to follow through them just yet. It's still exciting to know that they're possible. Um,
Svetlana, I am very happy that you are able to join us, but I do guarantee that if you continue to talk about maths, that I shall die, and there is no guarantee I will come back for Easter.
oh, oh, I'm sorry, Vasya. I know numbers don't mean much to you, but they do govern quite a bit of how the world is structured. After all, one could say that mathematics are ineffable in terms of just how the world perceives them. After all, if you add one to another, it'll always be two others, right? And I'm sure there's some thought as to how exactly he has come to the conclusion that one plus two, 1 plus 1 equals 2. But there's several philosophical ideas that could pursue there. Of course, better minds than myself have pursued this. But oh, I'm sorry, Vasya. I would dearly love to still have you around for Easter. I'll refrain.
How we come from the same parentage is frankly beyond me. That is the true mystery of the universe, dear sister. Please, please show me your sketches. Look at these beautiful moors, these beautiful churches. How is it that you are so talented with the charcoal and yet you speak nothing of it? I want to hear more about London. I want to hear more about the balls you must have gone to. I want to hear more about the gentlemen you must have danced with.
Oh,
Please
well,
tell me you danced at least once.
I well, yes. Well, I suppose dancing is a broad description of body movements, and I suppose I what I did could have been perceived as dancing. Um, but well, truth be told, I didn't do so much dancing as much discussion, one would say. Um, um, among certain peers, and I think like as she's kind of doing this, she's kind of like, um, yeah, kind of like not shyly, I guess. Well, I guess kind of shy, like yeah, pulling out like her sketchbook and whatnot. And I think like yeah, you'll see like yeah, there's a sketchbook on Abby. There's a nice detailing of like a tree. Um, I think there is. I think okay. A paper will slip out from the sketchbook, and it is of it's something you've never seen Svetka sketch before, which is people. Specifically, it's two men. And when it slips out, or it looks like two men, but when it slips out, she's just immediately just like, oh, she'll like reach to like grab it, but I think it'll like very coincidentally fly up to your feet. Let's say, Vasya, you can see.
Now, dear sister, what's this? Do we have a secret admirer that we have been capturing in our diary?
No.
And so I just want to know, how detailed is the sketch? Like, can I make out who is in the background?
It's meant to be a sketch of Antonin and Sergei, but one is more detailed than the other for sure. I think you will recognize the face before Sveta like grabs it and stuffs it back to her sketchbook and say, "No, Vasya, it's nothing as sordid as that. I like I said, my intentions on studying abroad was to pursue, you know, on, honest, honest knowledge, and I've always found. I've told this to you multiple times. I've always found the road to romance perhaps a bit tangled and confusing, and I wouldn't bother myself with that. Really, Vasa, you've always had a terribly overactive imagination. I've always thought that perhaps you should read this paper by Ryman on the prime functions. Perhaps that maybe that'll lead some order.
No more prime functions. No more counting. Sister, it is Easter. It is the holidays. I understand you have homework. I am not the homework, please.
I understand, sister. I'll refrain.
I had heard that you had seen the officer. I had heard that you had seen Officer Maras and Sergei in London, and indeed, don't you think that Maras is a very handsome man?
You
seem to have captured his likeness quite well.
Oh, yes. Officer Maris was quite striking. Honestly, quite terrifying. Well, terrifying in the sense that, well, he is a man in command of the world. But and honestly, it's a bit intimidating. But Sergei was quite well. He was quite charming. I mean to say he was, he was a gentleman. And if you don't mind me saying so, sister, I think Mama's done a very good job finding the right kind of husband for really, and honestly, if I think any woman. After all, he's.
Yes, I mean, of course, I'm very lucky, and of course, Sergei has written many letters, numerously. Once a week, I receive letters from him on his travels, and indeed, I am, of course, very excited.
Is this a good time for a servant to bring in his calling card?
Yes. It's like, as a matter of fact, he should be arriving any day now to spend Easter with us.
He's trying to turn it down in the British style, but he's failed utterly. And then you see where he's smoothed the corners back out because he can't remember what he's supposed to do. And it's just his calling card.
And then, so of course, I pick up the card and see that it's you. And then, of course, Sveta is right next to me and she sees that it's you. And the camera just sees me go white, and I'm assuming Sveta goes scarlet. And I said, yes, yes, go ahead. Of course, send Sergei in.
You definitely hear the sound of him tumbling on something in the hall, like tripping on something. And then he's announced, and then he comes to the door of the room and is like, is it all right for me to come in?
Of course,
if this is
Sergei.
That, and then he stops as soon as he sees Sveta.
Sergei Markovich.
I can, of course, come back later if you're having a private conversation.
Oh, no, of course, it's fine. Sete, of course, has joined us for the holidays, and of course, I need a chaperone for us to visit together. So please come in. Come in. Would like a drink? We have just had tea. I'm sure that we could have them fresh up the pot.
I'm certain tea would be lovely.
Of course. And then she has the tea get refreshed, but then brings you over a cup and says, "Oh, it's so good to see you. We have not had the joy of your company in months, dear Sergey. Tell me,
He
how was the
awkwardly
continent?"
sits somewhere that's not too close to Sveta.
I love the idea that
Or
you're
it's
between
like
us.
awkwardly close to Sveta because that's the place that he won't like look at her.
Yeah.
If he sits next to her, he won't like awkwardly look at her in a pining sort of
Yeah,
fashion.
like you're on the couch next to each other, and then I'm sitting across from you. I was just completely missing the point because I'm there, like trying very hard to pretend that I am happy to see you. So yes,
I
your
was so
travels must have
sorry.
been demanding.
Well, it was my first time traveling without one of my father's deputies supervising my work. So it was challenging, but also rewarding.
And you still found time to write me such lengthy and considered letters. I do apologize that I was not able to
My letters were not
receive
too long,
to
were
match
they?
them. No, of course not. Of course not. They were detailed and full of descriptions that I found fascinating and that just overwhelmed me with their beauty.
My father and uncles have often chastised me for writing letters that were poetic. He says like that's some sort of like social scandal.
Oh, if it makes you feel any better, I found them to be very matter of fact and not poetic in the slightest.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I have long thought that if I had, of course, the material means to attend to higher education, I would have studied something perhaps like engineering. But I'm sorry. Sveta, I'm very sorry that we did not have more of an opportunity to see each other when we were both in London.
I think Sveta has been.
He said without looking at you once.
Yeah, no, Sveta's like determinedly also not looking towards you, and I think Vaza could tell that her face is turning purple. And I think that she's just gonna say very quickly, "Oh please, please, Survey Makovich. I don't consider that an insult at all. I'm sad that we couldn't spend much time in London as well, but I knew you were quite busy after all. You just say that you were not only looking after your father's business without supervision, which is quite bold, especially if this was your first time, but also taking the time to write to my sister, who's your fiance, once a week. I mean, that's such dedication, and I'm sure that will count. That's a good sign for your marriage going forward."
Well, of course. I do assume that should I travel after we are married, should the ministry send me on matters that require me to be away from Moscow, or you are not with me when the ministry sends me to Petersburg, that we will, of course, correspond. As you deem appropriate, of course.
Yes. Yes, of course. Any correspondence is of course expected amongst the future family members. Where on earth is that?
Lana, my God, your uncle. He hires only eccentric servant. Oh, Sergei Maximovich.
He stands very hastily, almost spilling the tea, recovering before, like as it sort of trembles on a saucer. It's like, Princess, and then awkwardly stands there waiting for you to sit down.
I had no idea you were here so soon. Girls, have you
Yes.
been
Yes,
entertaining our
quite.
guests?
Of course, Mother. Sergey quite surprised us. However, we have offered, they are refreshing the tea right now. Of course, we'll be able to bring you a cup as well. And yes, we were just
Your
talking about
uncle and his
how.
obsession with English tea. We're in the Russian countryside. We should have samovars. For God's sake. This is why we have samovars, so that you don't have to wait around for some superannuated maid to boil some water.
I do think there is something to be said for freshly brewed tea, but a samovar is very practical.
I like tea anglaise as much as the next person, but yes. My Sveta, Lana, are you all right? You look positively ill. You didn't catch anything on your trip.
You're not ill, are you dear Sveta?
Perhaps, I'm not sure. I think there's a confusion of no, I don't. I feel quite all right, Mother. Thank you so much for asking.
Huh. Oh, before I forget, your brother's regiment has decided to throw a ball later this month. Since we'll be here in the country, I thought I should mention it.
Nikolai's regiment will be nearby.
It is, yes, they are camped nearby. I went and did my annual charity mission to them.
I am certain that they were very appreciative to see you.
Oh,
Princess.
wow. Oh, my boys. They know how to make an old lady feel beautiful.
And not looking at Sveta, but sort of not looking at anyone else either. He says, my father's physician does strongly recommend a good constitutional whenever one is beginning to feel ill. He says that it helps blood circulation, which of course diminishes the opportunities for bad air to cause disease.
How practical, Sergei Maximovich.
My father's physician is a very practical person.
I have
He is
never heard of Paul described in such a clinical fashion. You are to be commended, sir. That is an insight I had never once reached myself.
Oh, well, I hope I'm not boring anyone.
Not in the slightest.
Although I must say, Sergey, you have surprised us so, and I do have some letters that I do need to get written before dinner, and so please forgive me, but I must excuse myself for the afternoon. I shall leave you in the good company of my mother and my sister, and I shall see you at dinner.
Of course. It has been so good to see you now that I am returned to Russia.
Well,
And
I
hope not to
can't.
be sent
I'm
back
afraid
there.
I can't entertain you either, Sergei Maximovich. I must go and look at my brother's winter foals that he tells me some will finally give me outrunners to match my General Kutuzov. Lana, please entertain our guest. Why don't you play piano for him? Do that Schubert piece that I like.
I don't want to put you out, Svetlana. It would be inappropriate for me to distract you from any work you need to do this afternoon.
Oh no, Sergei Maximovich, I'm pretty well ahead with my work, and it would make us poor hosts if all of us were to spurn you one after the other. If you don't mind hearing an amateur at the piano, perhaps I would gladly do as Mother asked. If you're interested,
Don't let her modesty fool you. She was a prodigy.
She is very talented, and her repertoire is quite large.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Only if you're interested.
Well, I certainly am very interested. Also, because I saw that you were reading papers by a Mr. George Boole in England, I took the liberty of acquiring some of his pieces, and well, that's not to bore you with mathematics.
Quite frankly, Sergei Maximovich, nothing would interest me more. I wouldn't find it boring at all.
Well, have you seen his work on the relationships of logic in mathematics? I found it rather provoking.
And that is
I'm
when
going to go look at
Vasia
some
slowly
horses.
speaks out.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like we may be at the stop point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. What was that?
I've never been in a more awkward seat in my life.
I'm just saying that high school me is very proud that I've turned away, that like I've turned making it awkward into a thing that we can now do performatively as an art.
Well, so if you want to make things awkward, we could do an Antonine Stas scene.
Perhaps with Babette also there.
That would be very difficult.
No, god damn it.
I mean, not impossible, but
I mean,
feel
I'll
like
play your
trying to
hot-ass
talk to
boyfriend.
each other-
hello.
I feel like trying to talk to each other while having somebody else there would be.
I mean, you're the main character, so I'll follow your lead, but I did want to have a talk as Antonine.
Is this at the country estate?
Oh, yes.
You could try to do it in a room with Andre.
Hello. Maybe that's where I
Well,
like
that would
that.
be like Andre hearing other people talk about their sexuality in code.
Yeah, he's just like, uh-huh.
So why don't you guys start, and then I'll come in as Antonine. So just kick off a couple for a little bit.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, sounds good.
I mean, Babette has told Andre about Stas, so
Andre's not
your
vague.
gaydar is well developed. It's well known.
I don't know what you mean. Yeah, so where do you want us to meet up? Are we hanging out intentionally, or are we like
reading? Or are you in the library when I come to get a book?
Let's do the second one. I'm like the old guy
Okay.
who's like going around reading stuff like a nerd.
Old people in there reading.
Yeah, but it's gonna be like the Russian almanac or something.
He's just reading the encyclopedia from start to finish.
Well, it
But
is
if I had a
Easter.
dictionary-
Otherwise, what are you going to do?
I mean, I gave up everything fun, so
Cousin Andre.
oh. Well, hello, Stas. It is very good to see you.
I'm sorry. I had come to see if I could find a novel.
Oh no, it's fine. Please save me from this history. It seemed to be what I was looking for, but then it turned. Is it possible for history to be too dry? It turned too dry. So dry I need a drink.
The history of Germany does tend to have that effect on readers.
I mean, I know they're German, but my God. And there's like a little bar in the corner. So I pour myself a drink and gesture to you.
Only a small amount. I do not want to be intoxicated before dinner. After all, I understand one of the Hyra monks is going to come.
Yes, that's what I've heard. Which means, of course, that I have to be drunk before dinner. Yes, most definitely.
I find it best to drink after dinner so that I will forget everything that was said.
What an excellent notion. So how are you
But if
finding the
I'm
country?
before dinner, I can't stare silently at him without my eyes crossing or falling over.
Ah, that is fair. You see, having lived a slightly longer life than you, I've developed this practice where if I focus on something just behind their head, it looks as though I'm paying attention.
That is a useful tip. I shall consider it.
Yes, just be careful. You know, if you stare for too long, your eyes start to glaze over. You've got to shift. It's an art that I've perfected over many years of sitting at tables with priests.
Have you ever lived abroad?
Yes.
Where?
Yes, I spent some time in Europe, in France, obviously, and a little bit of time in England, although I didn't really care for it.
I was considering Bohemia. Well, Prague,
Oh,
specifically. If you can
well, I've heard good things.
talk about a country without acknowledging its most interesting city. I have no wish to live in the Bohemian countryside.
Yes, I wouldn't advise it.
It
But I've heard good
seems to
things
be.
of Prague.
Yes, well,
Why abroad?
I have lived so long in Moscow, and I have no interest in living anywhere else in Russia. I thought perhaps it would be time to spend some period not touring, just living, perhaps teaching, working, perhaps even, well, writing abroad.
Seems like there's a lot you want to
Vague.
do abroad. Yes,
Well,
vague.
you know that there are. Do you ever want to go somewhere because you know that's where someone that you're trying to avoid is not?
Oh, yes. Why do you think I live in the countryside with a bunch of horses?
Why do you live in the countryside with a bunch of horses? You never come visit us, and I mean, rarely.
Well, it's what you said. Unfortunately for me, the person that is not out here in the countryside is, well, all of Russia.
Yes, well, I had thought that's seeing all of Russia in one place was why I love Moscow, but it turns out many of the people I enjoyed seeing were not Russian.
And
Oh,
at that moment, Antonin steps in, wearing his uniform, covered in dust. Like, Prince Kuznetsov, oh, forgive me, Count. Uh, he doesn't even know how to diplomatically make this work. So he just like looks at the book you're reading, like, yes, that's not a particularly good history. Have you read Monsieur Thiers on the history of the Revolution in France?
well, yes, but that's not a history of Germany now, is it?
Well, as someone in the service of a German state, there's really not a lot that's particularly interesting until you get to the 30 Years' War.
Oh, maybe I'll skip ahead.
That does seem like a war that went on well past its expiration point.
Yes, well, blame the Swedes, I guess.
Is there something I can do for you?
I just thought I was looking for Prince Kuznetsov.
Ah, well.
Oh, well, you found him. Don't let me get in the way. And he just puts his nose in his book.
I take it you know my very good cousin.
Yes, the count. Yes, I know him by reputation. And gives a significant glance at Andre.
I
Reputation
have no
indeed.
idea. I am certain I have no idea what his reputation would be. He's my reclusive, interesting, fascinating cousin.
A superb farmer of horses.
Well, there's,
Well,
I suppose there's also.
I do know good flesh from bad flesh, don't I?
What a
I'm
remarkable way of
pretty
putting it.
sure like Stas turns bright red and is not exactly sure why.
I had no idea you were occupied, Prince.
You may, of
Perhaps
course,
I
join
should just.
us. Would you like some tea?
I
My uncle is taken to the. My cousin has taken to the serving it in the English style.
well, thank goodness. I don't understand why this entire forsaken country thinks that the best thing you can possibly do for tea is to make a cold pot first thing in the morning and then just pour boiling water into it at length during the day. Ridiculous.
It is because they are thoroughly uncivilized. Which amongst the horses we don't have to worry about. They're thoroughly civilized, as am I.
I thought you were quite genteel, sir.
Depends on the day.
Hmm. I see. So when the wind blows north-northwest, you know a hawk from a handsaw.
Usually. Although I get confused. Which one do you cut wood with? The hawk.
Your cousin is quite droll, Prince.
What brings you to the country, Maras?
Your cousin invited me, and I came. I believe I wrote you about that.
Ah, yes. I'm sorry, I'm getting a good bit of correspondence now, and have lost touch with of course, personal correspondence, business correspondence. You understand?
Business, yes. Of course. What business? If I might ask. Purely for
Well,
entertainment, to have a discussion, something to speak about.
well, I'm applying to teaching post.
You're going to leave your cousin? What will she do without you?
Well, I could not very well continue teaching if I leave Moscow.
Going to leave Moscow. For Petersburg?
Oh, good God, no! You know I loathe that city.
No, he's thinking about Prague.
Prague? Well,
I was thinking about Prague
a city I know very well.
or Krakow, or
I know Krakow well, too.
or
Oh, isn't that a
other
coincidence?
places.
Well, Krakow is in the Austrian part of Poland.
The borders do shift between Warsaw and Krakow somewhat often. Yes.
I had no idea you were thinking of leaving Russia.
I had been attached to the idea for so long that when I discovered that I still could, I decided that it would be time to perhaps, well, strike out and make my fortune. Teaching, you understand. Make a fortune teaching, he says, appreciating the irony.
I wish you had written me about this. I could have been helpful, of course, in your search.
I did not wish to impose.
I feel we are imposing upon your noble cousin, though.
Not at all.
You'll
You
find
I
that
am so
Andre.
interested in my cousin's future plans.
You are so polite, Count.
I, after all, had specifically come, well, I had, on seeing my cousin, hoped that I could gain some good advice about being a Russian living abroad.
Well, I suppose it'd be much easier if you had a local friend.
Yes, well, the nice thing about Prague is I don't know anyone who's currently there.
Well, I'm from there.
Yes, but I don't know anyone who's currently there. It will be a social adventure.
Well, I won't be in Russia forever.
Well, but you are, if I do remember correctly, employed by the Prussians?
Well, diplomatic assignments are. I mean, you're changing your position. Perhaps I could change mine. I've been thinking about that. Perhaps it's time for me to finally face facts and join the Austrian civil service.
The civil service.
I never was much of a military man. It was simply an easier way to get ahead in Prussia.
Ah, you had not mentioned that you were thinking of leaving the
Well,
Prussian military.
I had meant to speak to you about this, but perhaps now is not the time. It kind of like looks sideways at Andre.
Andre definitely was like watching intently, and then when you looked sideways at me, was like, "This book is very interesting."
Dear cousin, did you find the one good portion in a book of German history?
You know, I skipped forward to the 30 Years' War. We're in year 3, and things are not looking great.
No.
Well, I've long said that nothing about Protestantism ever looked good.
Yes, well, you know, us Bohemians started the whole thing, so.
I know that the French have taken to referring to anyone who lives an interesting outsider lifestyle as Bohemian.
Ah, yes, la vie bohème. I think that has something to do with the Romani.
I thought that had something to do with how exciting Prague was.
Prague is many things. Exciting is not really one of them. Charming.
Depends on the company.
Quaint. Piquant, perhaps. Well, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, the company could be charming.
By Muscovite standards, I'm sure it's a wild, a rather wild city.
Yes. Well, perhaps we should talk more about this when I've had a chance to change.
Well, if you don't mind my coming back to your rooms with you, I may continue the conversation.
Not at all. Not at all. With your permission, Count.
Oh, you don't need my permission. You can do whatever seems best for the two of you. In this moment, in the countryside.
You're a very
In my
interesting
house.
man, Count. I look forward to getting to know you better.
I'm a very interesting man, yes. I am fascinating, and I don't believe that I feel the need to talk anymore. So I'm going to go over here, read this book very quietly. Have an excellent afternoon.
Thank you, Cousin Andre. I will see you when Father Ruslan arrives.
Yes, we will sit with a priest in a little while, so that will be enervating.
One of the
It
few
must be a
things,
delight to have already had Easter.
one of the few
I
things
say,
that
even
makes me the comforts of the Church of Rome is your Russian Orthodox Church. No offense, Prince.
Wow.
None of that. Nope.
To the end of a great length.
Indeed.
Yes, may it go out with a bang.
Well, I guess that feels scenish.
Poor Andre, man. You just. And now kiss.
So, do we want to see the grand return of the Countess Natalia?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Everything seems to be happening near this estate, or in this farm. I do have a reason for Natalia to show up, for sure. But I guess I'm just looking at the time. Do we? Are we gonna make it to the second novel chapter? It seems like this is gonna be it.
I think we have time to get to another novel chapter.
I'm lost track of time, honestly.
There's gonna be at least one duel. We have to get there.
Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. All right. Yeah. I have a reason for Natalia to show up at this farm, so she's gonna show up. I think she'll send word in advance that she's appearing. Yeah. So I think Natalia sent word in advance that she's come to visit. I'm not sure who's here to greet her, but yeah, I think specifically she wanted to talk to Stas, but Richard has done 2 scenes in a row. So she could run into Vasya, or Babette. I'm down for either.
I'm fine if Vasya is the first person you want to run into.
Yeah, I think I think we'll go with Vasya. Then I do think Natalia would want to run into Babette. Yeah, so I think she'll just kind of come in and we'll just kind of say Princess Vasalisa Ivanovna, it's been some time. Well, you look positively resplendent. How have you been?
Countess Lenskaya, once again, with such kind compliments for me. You as well. You look much invigorated by your travels. Have you been? It seems that Europe has taught you well. I must say, I was very surprised to hear that you had absconded the entire continent.
Yes, well, I had thought of confining myself simply to Paris, but I figured while one has escaped the confines of Russia, why not spread oneself to any and all such possible places? It is as invigorating as you might assume. Princess Vasilisa Ivanovna, highly recommended, I would say. But I suppose perhaps you'll have more time in the future for such travels with your husband-to-be, I assume?
It has been mentioned on numerous occasions that we shall be traveling frequently for his business. I assume that I shall be seeing some major cities with some frequency and some other places far less.
Well, I definitely would, in your position, take advantage of even the ability to see such cities, especially on with the help of your husband. To be, it's something to look forward to. And once you get the chance, well, I'll be sure to inform you of what places are to see in such places in such cities. I'm sure I can tell you a place or two that perhaps your husband to be wouldn't necessarily know about.
Yes, I would very much enjoy that, Countess. I am assured, I am most positive bet you would know many places that my husband to be, as you so kindly keep referring to him as, would never bother to visit, as they do not involve counting houses or places of books.
Oh, he's quite a studious man. I don't suppose he mentioned that we had run into each other while I was at a jaunt in London. He was quite keen on visiting some universities, very elegant places. I might say these universities. I'm sure you'll find yourself at home at them. He's quite a learned man. I must say.
Countess, you have certainly been here for 10 minutes only, and you have mentioned my fiance so many times, but I have heard nothing about your travels. I do genuinely wish to know. You did leave very suddenly. Did you perhaps find something to journey out for?
Oh, I wouldn't describe it as such. One just sometimes gets the urge and finds the right opportunity to go. Quite honestly, though, this might be for the foreseeable future. The last time able to do such a thing. After all, mothers beckon, and at some point one has to bow to such beckoning. Oh, sorry, another chat. Oh, is that what you want? Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Dan was watching. I was looking at what Dad was saying in the chat. Okay. After all, sometimes a window of opportunity opens and one simply has to grab it before it closes. It just so happened that there was such an opportunity after my engagement ended to perhaps follow oneself and one's desires, see where they might lead you.
Do you think that was quite wise? I'm sure that your mother made very well known her plans with that new man that she's been talking about. My mother has received letters from her about it, and so I've heard vaguely that he's apparently a very kind man.
Oh, wow. Isn't that terribly exciting? Perhaps kindness would do me some good. I have not met this man that my mother has scrounged up, at least the kind of man who'd be willing to take on such an impetuous, immoral being such as myself. But I'm very much looking forward to meeting.
You speak so lowly of yourself, Countess. That you are a very strong, very clear, and very intelligent woman who speaks her mind. There's many things that I admire about you now that things are different.
Mm.
I know that we have not always been on the best of feet, but I find it confusing that you speak about yourself in such a way, and yet you feel so utterly confident in pursuing all of the things that you want. It astonishes me because I cannot see for the life of me why you should say that you are immoral and corrupted and ill reputed and all of these things, and yet still seem so perfectly happy to follow along with anything that you wish.
Well, Princess Vasalisa, when one is confident of oneself, and I like to believe that I'm quite confident that I'm immoral and impetuous and ill-reputed, one finds that what you're capable of and what you want to do is, well, I wouldn't say well within your reach, but perhaps there's less doubt to get in the way. There's less confusion about oneself. really it's everyone else then you have to worry about. But at the very least, if you're decidedly sure about yourself, then that's the first step taken. And it's all about just walking to wherever the hell you want to go.
But what would you do, Countess, if you weren't so sure of yourself? If you weren't so positive that the choices you were making were the right ones for you?
Well, I simply cease to be.
Sonia, have you seen Natalie? I had no idea you were back.
Oh, Princess Elizaveta, it was quite sudden, but yes, I'm back, and I'm so very much glad to see familiar faces. Europe has been a delight in its own ways, but it's always nice to return to friends and family.
Babette glances around the room and then leans in close to Natalia. Well, you've only been back 5 minutes and you've already perplexed and made Vazia cross, so it's as if you'd never left.
Mother, I'm not cross. I was simply hearing about the Countess's trip in Europe and how she mentioned that she crossed paths with Sergei.
I know, Sonia, you're not cross. She's been cross every single day.
With that, I shall take my leave, Mother. Please enjoy the Countess's company. I shall darken your doors no more.
Sonia, no, wait, please don't. Oh, okay.
I think that's how you sees the show, and
my recommendation to you, Natalie, is to not have children. They just make you old and bitter.
I thought time was meant to take care of that.
Ha! Time.
I'll take your advisement into account. I did come here with a bit of a purpose.
I'm at your service.
Yes. Well, I mentioned this to your daughter, but I had thought to only stay in Paris, but decided, what the hell, why not go wherever? And I went to London, and on a whim, I tried to track down some certain family members. Yes, and well, I don't know how happy you'll be here to hear that I did find. Well, at the very least, I found my aunt, and we had a conversation, and she and I think I'm the time I can reach into her purse with that. She'll take out a letter, and she says she wasn't sure where to send this to. After all, it's been years, and
yes,
she wants to make sure it gets to the right people. This is yours. I have one for your. Actually, have a few for quite a number of people. One to your brother as well.
Did she know? Did she know about her husband?
I'm trying to think logical with this. I don't think she'd had any reason to.
I guess you told her then, huh?
Yes. Well, she still wanted to write something, so I suppose I'll have 2 letters to give to. Well, I'm not sure who to give this to, but
it's all right. You know, I always knew that in her own way she loved Boris very much. And he loved her. I mean, obviously, not a way people would understand. Thank you for this, Natalie. I will not forget it. I'll say this. I think you are right in wanting to leave Russia. If what Stas told me is true, then, well, I don't know how it went with you and your friend. But even if it went poorly, I don't think Russia can contain someone like you. But I am not sorry that you returned. I think it's only fair that if you leave, you should make sure that things are finished. So that at the very least, the people you leave behind have some sense of ending. They can prepare themselves. I thank you so much, Natalie. I would never have asked you to do this for me.
Funnily enough, that was one of my aunt spoke of many regrets, but that was the one she regretted the most.
Well, then perhaps we share that. We are very much alike for a period of time, Svetlana and me. I could not ultimately be as courageous as she turned out to be.
I think it's a different kind of courage, I'd like to believe. I don't want to judge on what happened. After all, this is before my time, but I do not think that whatever you or my aunt has decided to do with their lives had, at the very least, I don't believe it was ever done with malice as intent. I do believe that. I'd like to believe that you do what you can, perhaps to make sure, if not a little bit more happiness in the world, and perhaps less misery. At least that's what I like to believe.
I was forced in the end to decide which of the people I loved I would devote myself to. And since your aunt and her friend had each other, I decided to stay and be there for their husbands, who also loved each other and them. It was a very complicated situation. Young people today. Thank you, Natalie. If you don't mind, I'm going to go read this now.
Of course.
I think we can call that novel.
Yeah.
All right. So let's try and rush through an epistolary and then close this all out. But, grab some reputation if you had any. I don't think I did anything that changed mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't do rumor and scandal. We've got more than enough of those.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how small our little group is this time around.
Yeah, well, it was small last time, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think none of us had more than 2 connections in that one, maybe. I know, I could pull up I have the sheet somewhere. All right. Well, you know what we haven't had happen yet? We can't go through an entire Russian society cycle if Kat doesn't screw around with the epistolary chapter, right?
Those are the rules, actually. Yeah.
So, Babette comes running down the stairs to find Svetlana and Vasalisa sitting on a couch. She goes, "Girls, girls, I've had the most amazing letter from your father." Wait, I must read it out. My little Devosha. The most amazing thing has happened, and soon I will return to Moscow, where finally I will be able to take you back in my arms and kiss your neck. And she flushes. Goes, well, let me skip ahead a page or so. My travels had taken me to the western part of Siberia. I was en route from one dreary station to another, just myself, my clerk, and a pack horse that we were driving between us, when we came upon a most expensive carriage mired in the mud, surrounded by a retinue who seemed to have no idea what to do. Well, remembering my early days as an artillery officer, I immediately leapt from my horse and ran up to try and put things right. I noticed at that point that sitting inside the coach was a young man of obvious noble birth. Without even thinking about it, I banged on the door and said, "Unless you want to spend your entire night sleeping there, you'd best get out and help us." The man looked startled, but then quickly stepped down and stood aside while my clerk and I managed to organize things, and with the help of our horses, pulled the carriage from the mud. As we were getting things right and putting him back on his way, I finally saw the insignia on his breast and immediately fell to my knees in the mud. The Tsarevich, for it was he, grabbed me by the shoulders, pulled me up, and said, "No, no, my dear man. I would prefer 20 honest men like you than 2,000 of my finest soldiers. Come and ride with me in my carriage to the next post." I was tongue-tied, Babette. I didn't know what else to do. But I had no choice. I climbed inside, and we sat in awkward silence for several minutes before he started to ask me of my impressions of the towns I had passed through. This began a very lively conversation about the things we had seen and the improvements we would like to make to the countryside. And he was very fascinated to understand how we had liberated our serfs, and told me, and I tell you this under the cover of secrecy, my dear wife, I have no doubt that when Alexander is Tsar, he will do something to finally free this country of its medieval chains that have so long bound us from the destiny that we could take. We spent a most merry night dining at an inn on the way, and when we parted, he delivered to me several letters. The short of it is, I must finish my duties here, at which point I will return to Moscow, and with a letter from the Tsarevich himself, establish myself on one of several committees in the city. My days of wandering will be at an end. I will finally be home with you and our children, in time to see our dearest daughter finally get married. I love you and my children so much. I cannot wait for you to tell them of what has happened, and I will see you as soon as I can. Your most beloved, Louis.
Stassi was so happy until that last little bit there. Oh, Dad. To the Countess Natalia Svyatoslalovna, I would never say that name right, Lenskaya, from Princess Vasilisa Ivanovna Krasnogradskaya Volokova. Natasha, if I may address you as so, I feel that we have known each other long enough that perhaps we can begin to thaw this coldness between us, this very lively coldness between us. I will say I was much surprised to see you at my uncle's house. I understand that you were here to deliver a letter to my mother, and one that she was most grateful to receive. So thank you for this kindness that you shared with her. I also wish to thank you for the conversation that we had in the moments before my mother joined us. I know that my questions may have seemed odd, that they may have probed more than was strictly proper, but I want to thank you for the candor with which you answered them. I have been spending many nights in quiet and, as my mother has stated, not so quiet contemplation of a very serious matter. One of which I am sure that you can intimate, but which I shall leave undictated upon this page. I believe I am finally reaching something of a conclusion in that matter, and I think it is, comedically enough, you who has pointed me in the right direction. I do not mean that with any great shade of sarcasm. I simply find it of the most ordained fate that the one who may have offered the solution I needed was, quite frankly, the person I saw as an obstacle for such a long time. I understand if our conversation shall always hold a barbed quality to it. There is something vaguely enjoyable about it, even as I tend to loathe the sight of you in the first instance. I do hope that perhaps we can find more opportunities to converse. You are very close to my cousin Stanislav, and if he vouches for you, there must be some fine character in there somewhere. Looking forward to seeing you at the military ball later this month. Thank you again for your kindness, Vasya.
I do want to add the detail that like Natalia wasn't just there to like deliver a letter to Babette. She also delivered a letter to Andre, which was Svetlana's epilogue, basically.
Yeah, I think I have one. From Count Andrei Fyodorovich Vasilev to Prince Stanislav Vadimovich Kuznetsov. Dear Stas, I was so happy that you could join us for Easter, and I wanted to write to send to you my most sincere wish that you will do what it is that allows you to live in the fullness of yourself. Without putting too fine a point on it, I know what it is to find oneself alone in the midst of a crowd. And I know what it is to find even one kindred spirit in the throng. If that kindred spirit draws you to Prague or America or the grand circle of the Antarctic wastes, it's worth it. And I'm here to tell you that it's worth it. I haven't always been an old man living alone with my horses, after all. And even though I am old, and people prefer not to think this about those that are of a certain age, I have been in a place where I have loved quite deeply. I am wandering from the point, as I am wont to do. My point, dear sweet Stas, is that you must go where it is that makes your heart sing. And although we will, of course, miss you in the places where you feel less seen, that is nothing compared to the pain that you will feel if you remain. I do hope you can catch my meaning. If not, feel free to make an appointment to come see me, and I will speak with you more candidly in person. I remain your faithful friend, Andre. It's tough to be gay in a homophobic society, you guys. You gotta depend on older twinks to show you the way.
Anybody else have a letter?
Yeah, I think Natasha's gonna write to Count Ilya Ilyich Rostov.
What I do?
No, you didn't do anything. It's be fine. Dear Ilyusha, I hope that life in the military is treating you well. On one hand, I did think that perhaps such a hard Scrabble life would grind you down into the dirt. But given that there's not much for a military to do, I just assume that it's a kind of tragically romantic gesture that perhaps may pay off in the future. Who's to say? You're the poet, not me. Even though our engagement did not go through, I do want to say that I did enjoy a company, would still very much like to remain friends, perhaps in their own way. I am sad that your mother's response to what was quite frankly a mutual decision amongst ourselves, even if it was instigated by you, was to cut you off and, well, give you less room to maneuver beyond such grand romantic gestures, I suppose. My mother just decided to move on to the next man, who I've had the chance to meet. A Yevgeny Yuryevich Semyonov, Xenia to his friends. He's desperately sweet, very kind, which my mother was at pains to remind me at times before meeting him. He's nothing like you, but then again, you're terribly singular, which I do say with the risk of inflating your head a touch. Sorry, distracted by the chat there. Still, would I have preferred to go through with our engagement in this one? Well, right now I'm assessing whether it would be better or not, but I know you had better reasons, or you had better options, or you had better inclinations. I can't speak for yourself, of course. I can only say, I suppose, that perhaps it's better to follow those inclinations fully, don't you think? I suppose there's much to be said about the roundabout way to declare one's passion for another in the form of a grand gesture, but I found that even the grandest of gestures cannot pale to getting straight to the point, to the heart of it all. And you may get burned by following through, but, well, the pain of knowing is not so bad compared to the pain of not knowing. I hope to see you soon in more festive climes. I am dearly looking forward to it. I find that I am attempting to see as many familiar faces as I can in these times. Hope to see you soon. Yours, Natasha.
So do we want more letters, or are we ready to move to the final novel chapter?
I think we're ready
That
for
was
that.
weird.
Okay, yeah. I have two, but I can't think of anything that's compelling me to like write right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is.
I have just one very short letter.
Sure.
It's very short. It's it's from Vasalisa to Ilya, and it says, Count Rostov, I understand that you are encamped with your regiment near my uncle's lands at this moment, and that there shall be a ball at the end of the month. I am writing to let you know that I am planning to attend it. I hope that you may do me the favor of saving a dance for me. And then it's just a full like formal signature of Princess Vasalisa Ivanovna Krasnogradskaya Volokova.
So I guess it sounds like the regimental ball should be our final chapter, huh?
Party.
All right, let's do this thing. Regimental ball. We'll probably go over a little bit, but hopefully not too long. We'll get everybody to bed on time.
It'll be worth it if there's a duel.
Yeah, obviously. So, how shall we begin? I think the ball's already in swing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I know what they're doing. They're getting ready to do the mazurka. And there's probably questions about who's going to be dancing with who. Like, can Sergei even dance a mazurka?
Yeah.
Not without hurting himself.
To be fair, it can be very complicated. So there's occasionally a chair involved. So, yeah. So, yeah. Where shall we focus in first? I mean, we could do tradition. Babette and Vasia.
Oh my god, we should. Yeah.
This fucking tradition. All right, so Babette and Vasia standing by a punch bowl. Babette just looking like, well, this is raucous. Reminds me of the old days. Listen, Vasia, pay attention.
Yes, mother?
What is between you and Svetlana lately? She's acting very strangely about you.
About me? Mother, I have simply told her that I am not interested in maths and numbers. She constantly comes to me and talks about whatever letter she has read from Sergei, or whatever book that she has received from Sergei, or whatever numerical problem she has solved with Sergei. It's nonstop. And I've told her again and again that I do not care for mathematics.
I had no idea her correspondence had become so voluminous with your fiancé.
Well, if he is writing her letters, at least he is not writing me letters.
Vasia, this is intolerable. You know that I support you, but you're going to have to come to a decision very rapidly. We either must have a date with Sergei Maximovich and the Katavasovs, or we must find a way to elegantly make this go away.
I think I wish it to be the second.
Oh, great. Well, now I can't show my face in Moscow and Petersburg.
Mother, do not say that. It will make me doubt my decision.
I'm trying to make you doubt your decision. Great Caesars. I guess I'll have to be the one that delivers the news.
No, I have been steeling myself for this for days. I must be the one to do it. I was the one who has put us in this situation, and it must be me who gets us out of it.
And I suppose you will be throwing yourself at Ensign Rostov next. Sorry, I didn't mean that. Throwing yourself. Do you wish to have your intentions made known to the ensign? Oh, as I might point out, has no inheritance now.
He has his career. He may not have his mother's affection at the moment, but I think that with time and with the reputation that he is building in the army, and with the wild and freewheeling reputation he is leaving behind settled after marriage, that perhaps her cold shall thaw.
You do understand that if you marry into a military family, at best your husband will be far from you. At worst, you will take a life with him on some outpost in the middle of nowhere.
If I can correspond with him in words, in presence, in letters, then that would be enough for me.
Oh, my brave girl. Young girls are always so brave. Very well. Are you going to talk to Sergei Maximovich tonight, or?
I fear if I do not do it now that I shall lose my nerve.
I am going to go dance with the colonel, who, by the way, was one of the likely lads that I used to give a few rubles to in honor of your grandfather. And now, look at him. He is a great puffed-up colonel with a belly that earns medals all by itself. Oh, for those 5 minutes, I will not have to think of any of these things. Oh, blessed respite. You're just lucky that your father hasn't come home yet.
I'm sorry, Mother. I know that I have been much trouble to you. I assure you that this shall be the last of it, that I shall be a weight around your neck no more.
Vasia, don't say that. I fully expect you to be giving me trouble long into my golden years, and if you don't, I shall be very put out and disappointed that I had raised a child so poorly that you would stop giving me trouble.
She just becomes overcome for a moment, pulls out a handkerchief, like dabs at it.
Oh,
At her
you
face
young
and-
girls. You go to pieces over anything. We should just bring back Napoleon every 10 years to reinvade this country. It's the only way we can put any steel in our children. Ah! She walks off exasperated, but sort of smiling.
And at that point, I don't know what's better, if I should go and like tell Sergei that I'm calling it off, or if Sergei should be found by Ilya first.
Should be found what? Should be found what?
Found by Ilya first.
Yeah, no, I think
We're like on the precipice of like, this is either going to be happily ever after, or it's going to be a freaking tragedy, and it could go either way at this point.
it could go either way at this point, because I'm gonna shoot that dude. Yep.
Or, somebody Nikolai could shoot you.
One never knows.
I understand you have insulted my sister.
There are so many pistols with terrible aim lying around. That's just
They don't have great aim, especially at more than a few feet.
well, the dueling pistols specifically are almost useless.
Excellent
Yeah, which was the
pistols,
whole
Lieutenant. Yes, they're from the Chekhov Arms Company.
Listen, we mentioned dueling several times in the last chapter. We have to duel now.
Or we have to have some sort of like dramatic, intervention to stop the duel right before it happens.
Right. So it should be pointed out that this time he is wearing his sword as if he is ready to dance. He's not wearing his sword because he's ready to dance. And in a very, manly way. Yeah. So yeah, he's gonna go looking for Sergei. Where is he gonna find Sergei?
Sergei is standing outside the games room, and he's practicing the speech that his father has given him to Vasya about how she must show respect for him, and he keeps cutting lines and trying to restate it about how she must show respect for him and set a date, agree to a date.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the time that I should walk in.
He
Um,
sounds he keeps he keeps trying to say it nicely and it comes out completely incoherent.
You know, it's commonly believed that if one has to force a woman to the altar, then perhaps that marriage is ill-fated.
He takes a long sip of his wine. Ensign Rostov.
Sergei Maximovich.
You surprised me. I did not see you there. I was merely rehearsing a conversation I would like to have.
Yes, I heard.
Well, I'm sure it's not your concern.
Unfortunately, Sergei Maximovich, I believe it is.
I do not believe it should be. After all, I am engaged, and it is appropriate for me to ask my fiance to set a date.
You see, Sergei, I have always believed that it is the job of men to ensure that women should never have to besmirch their honor. And were a woman, say, to withdraw from a marriage at the last minute, well, as one can see from the example of myself, family and friends, and even members of our good society, they do not look upon it well.
I have never expected her to take responsibility for that. I'm sure that we could have a private conversation, should that be her interest, and resolve that. I do not see how that is a concern of yours.
But it is. Because even if one does have a private conversation, it does not look well upon those involved. Now, however, if someone such as myself were to say, stand in front of you, and he takes a step so that they're standing very close to one another, and say, I wish to fight you, sir, for the hand of the woman that I love, well then, that makes it all very simple, doesn't it?
Well, I suppose if you were to do something like that, that would make it rather simple. But since that's not what is happening,
Sergei Maximovich, I just did that.
I cannot fight you.
Cannot?
Well, what, tonight,
Yes, I was thinking tonight.
here,
Did you have somewhere else you'd rather go?
we are celebrating the great days of Easter.
Yes, which just ended, and, well, for Lent I gave up violence.
You, but she chose me over you.
Yes. She did, but I think she has since, well, I have reason to know that she has since come to regret that decision.
She has not told me of these regrets. She has mentioned nothing to me.
Mm.
Neither has her sister.
Well, be that as it may, I am standing now in front of you and saying that I would like to fight you for the hand of your fiance.
I do not know how to do this.
Well, one generally decides what weapons one would like to use, and then we go somewhere private. And then we fight.
Are we required to have seconds, or?
That is generally the way it is done.
There's no one here for me to ask. I don't even know which weapon to choose. And you have no sword tonight. Good, because you're dancing.
Yes, I am, with you, but that's beside the point. Sergei Maximovich,
I do not know what to do next.
pick a weapon.
The pistol.
Okay. Pick a place.
In the garden. By the roses. The rose garden. The rose garden. That's is that appropriate?
That is entirely appropriate. Sergei Maximovich, he puts a hand on the man's shoulder and says, "Do you know the rules of a duel?"
I don't even know how to fire a gun.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out by the rose garden. We're going to take several paces away from one another. And when we turn and fire,
You'll kill me.
you have the option of simply aiming your gun in the air. Honor is served. Everyone walks away.
Is that what you'll be doing?
Well, one can only hope.
How do I find someone to serve as my second?
Sir. And some
Pardon
Oh,
me,
no.
Sergei Maximovich.
Oh God, yes.
Captain Mares. I couldn't help but overhear this loud and rather farcically phrased request for a duel. If I may, I have some experience in this type of thing. I would be happy to serve as your second.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Rostov, you must have a second. Do you have a second? What about Stas?
Yes,
Well,
that will do nicely.
I'll go speak to him. You understand what my responsibility is?
Yes.
Yes, I must try and prevent you idiots from doing something so foolish. Also, the Rose Garden is a bad idea. Go by the creek. Dueling is forbidden by His Imperial Majesty. If you are
Yes.
caught, Rostov, whether or not you've killed this poor unfortunate boy or not, you will be drummed out of the service, probably exiled from the major cities. So keep that in mind.
I'm well aware. The creek it is.
I will go find Prince Kuznetsov and inform him of this charming addition to the evening's dance guard.
He gives it like a brief bow and walks away.
It's not sexy. Whatever you think, it's not sexy. Kuznetsov!
Listen, Ilya is sexy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, Ilya's sexy. Antonin might be in love, but he ain't blind.
Oh my God. How can Sergei take something that is like
I know.
the thing of a romance novel and be like,
What do we want to do next? Do we want to
just
see?
chuck a wet blanket on it.
Do we want to see Stas and Antonin, or?
I would assume Stas is dancing with Babette.
Oh, that's a good idea. Thank God for you, Stas. For one thing, you can count to 3. So you can at least keep time during a waltz, unlike that colonel. I mean, I guess it makes sense. You only ever have to count to 2, and in the military, it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
How do you not know how to waltz after an upbringing worthy of an officer?
How long have you lived in Russia?
Anything that has 3/4 time can be danced as a waltz. You have plenty of opportunities to practice.
You would think, Stas, you would think, but yet here we are. I have written you your letter under protest, but it was glowing.
Thank you.
Why are you leaving me? Is it just because Louis is coming back? I will talk to him about that foolishness he had earlier.
No, it was initially to avoid Antonin, and now it is to join him.
Oh, Well, congratulations.
We'll see.
Well, sometimes these things work out.
I suppose.
My brother and Boris were happy for 20 years.
Andre?
Dear God, Stas, you don't know enough Athenian types.
No, I just thought that he was more of a, well,
Oh, a horn dog. When he was younger. No, that's not fair to Andre. I'll tell you what I told his husband. That Andre would give his heart but once, and that would be forever.
ah, I think I understand.
Well, you have somewhat of that air about yourself too.
Well, I suppose.
So Fazia has decided that she doesn't want to marry Sergei. Surprise of the year. Stop the presses. Moscow burns down again. Lightning strikes twice.
Who does she want to marry?
Oh, probably that poet count. Poet soldier count. I guess
Rostov.
that's... Yes, well... Yeah, that's definitely the match I wanted my daughter to make. Oh, no, penniless military officer. Good idea. Good plan. Yeah.
Penniless aristocrats tend to be drawn together.
You're just saying that because you're a penniless aristocrat.
Well, yes. But I've avoided entanglements with any penniless aristocrats.
Well, whereas I am merely an over-leveraged grand lady.
I am falling for a penniless member of the bourgeoisie.
Well, I don't know. You could probably do okay on a civil servant salary in Prague. Praha.
I have a certain fancy that Bohemia will be a good place to settle down.
Do you speak any Czech?
I am under the understanding that most people speak German, Russian, and French there.
That's a thought. Well, one of you could just marry Natalie. She probably has a dowry. It's not like she's going to want to, I mean, it could be very convenient.
I think I'd hope she would find happiness in France.
Ah, well. I hope Natalie finds happiness too. It's hard.
It is. And I cannot imagine what it would be like had he not come back.
Well, but he did. And Stas, as much as I am so very saddened to lose you, those long years where I barely saw my brother, you were what I needed. You were like a little brother or a grown son, and I appreciated it. But if you need to go away to be happy, then I want you to go away. And leave me sad and weeping in cold, cold Russia. But in all honesty, I will be all right. My husband is coming home. Our fortunes are finally improving. Vasia will be ish. She'll be happy-ish.
Even with Rostov?
One can neither force one's children to be happy, nor force people to love against their will.
Ah, well. If you'd only told all the people who insist on us making vows that.
Well, I'm a philosopher by nature, so.
Are we ready for Ilya to show? Or sorry, Ilya or Maras or somebody.
Oh, I think Ilya should come and ask you to be his second.
Perfect.
You're muted, Serafina.
Oh, sorry. That's gonna love this.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna really dig this.
Super thrilled.
I bow to you as we end our dance, Babette.
Oh, the Count. Yay.
Count Rostov.
Stas, might I borrow you for a moment?
I see nothing on my dance card for the mazurka, and my cousin could use a walk in the garden, I'm sure, having never been a fan of Polish dancing.
You two boys go talk about your boy things, I guess. I'm gonna go
Yes.
see if any of my daughters will still talk to me.
I like Babette so much.
I definitely
I-
think in the background you see her walk up to Svetlana, who's in a deep conversation with Sergey, and she's like,
what is even happening? What sort of strange social experiment have you created? Yeah, so Stas, do you remember how I told you I'd never fought a duel before?
Well, I mean, it's a rather foolish and illegal activity. The Emperor has forbidden it. In
What
fact,
if I-
most of Europe has started forbidding duels.
What if I told you that was about to change in about 10 minutes by the creek and that I'd like you to come with as my second?
The Emperor has forbidden it, as
Mhm.
has most of Europe. And who are you dueling?
Sergei Maximovich.
Oh, good God. You're going to kill him.
Well, that's like a plan. I told him to just aim his gun in the air. Listen, if Vasya wants to leave this marriage, it doesn't look good unless this was the only way that I could find that wouldn't lead to her feeling disgraced, to society shunning her, and to her being in the same position that I'm in.
Oh, you are not going to kill Sergei Maximovich, are you?
Of course not. The man's basically a pudding.
He has certain scholarly inclinations that I have a respect for someone who has not been formally educated.
He could suck the joy out of the most gaudy party with one limp comment.
But
But he doesn't deserve to die.
good.
He's a smart person who has gifts to give the world, I'm sure. Point is, I have no interest in killing the man.
You shouldn't have an interest in killing him. Thank you for confirming that. How do we prevent the duel itself from becoming a scandal? Have we thought about that?
The duel won't be a scandal. Everyone still believes that you do it and it's sort of a thing you do, and then certain things in society are waved away.
What if you get banished from the capitals?
I'm not going to get banished from the capitals. Are you going to call the guard?
Oh, good God, no. I don't even know where to find the guard.
Well, then we'll be fine. Listen, there was a duel 3 months ago. What's his name dueled with who's his face, and everything was what it was.
Where do you find this information?
I'm in the military.
Oh.
Yes, you should try it sometime. It's enlightening.
I don't think I will. I've just
you
extracted
probably
someone
shouldn't.
from the military, and I'm planning to stay extracted.
Sounds like a plan. Creek?
In 10 minutes,
Yes.
what are you going to do if your intended future mother-in-law decides to take this as an excuse to kill you?
Well, isn't it the obligation of mother-in-laws to have dubious feelings about their sons-in-law?
Your mother-in-law knows how to use a gun.
I am aware. I'm hoping that, well, I'm hoping that her affection for her daughter and her understanding that I am actually a person with a good heart, and that I am going out of my way to try and save her daughter's reputation in the most embarrassing and masculine way possible, will buy me some quarter there? Have I not thought that through enough?
I think that with 10 minutes to go, you don't have many options to thinking it through further, do you?
No, I might have made the choice before I talked to you.
Oh, well. Well, congratulations. You have an utter fop who doesn't know how to fire a gun at your disposal.
Excellent.
All right, so cut to the creek. Mist is coming up out of it. Mist is like flowing over the ground.
At least he knows he's an idiot. Unlike most people.
And Antonine meets you, Stas, to look at the two pistols. And like, I don't suppose you talked any sense into your idiot.
Have you tried talking sense to an idiot?
I am a diplomat.
Yes, but a military one.
Well, even so.
You're, from what I understand, usually not offering people the option to not fire guns at all. Who decided?
I mean, I'm sure that my principal would be happy to offer terms up to and including pissing himself and rolling himself on the ground, begging, please, please do not shoot me. However, that would probably not serve to satisfy honor.
It would satisfy no one's honor, I take it.
Uh,
I am remarkably ignorant on these matters.
well, we're supposed to talk them out of doing it, but I think you haven't been able to do that.
Well, I know, this may surprise you to learn, but the laws against dueling are the only laws I ever had any intention of following.
Well, I'll just go ask him to choose one of these two.
All right. You are getting him to promise he's actually not going to do anything except fire in the air to satisfy honor.
I will suggest it.
I have extracted that promise from Rostov. He has no intention of actually killing anyone.
Are you sure?
He's, after all, a poet, and if he killed anyone, I'm sure it would require an epic to repent of it.
Yes. Well, poets do get killed in duels. That's what happened to Pushkin.
Rostov is many things, but he is not Pushkin. I mean that in the best possible sense.
I've read his poetry, I agree. By the way, you look quite fetching tonight.
Do I? In this?
Well,
I borrowed this jacket from Andre.
Since we have this moment alone without prying uncles.
Oh, cousins. Andre is my cousin.
Yes, whatever.
Understand,
Kuznetsov. When you asked me those questions, I'd always thought that the life I would live would be one of furtive alliances and dalliances, and that how could I love anyone when the people I would love could not love me publicly. And then you said that. And yes, I ran for a while. But I am haunted by your words and by your face. So I don't know what our future will bring. But if it is not involving you, then I might as well just go to Siberia and be mauled by a bear.
Well, then I intend to survive the night and try to our best to prevent you from going anywhere toward the east. Bear mauling.
This is good. Then I will look to show you some more of those texts I picked up in London tonight, if you have time to drop by my room.
All things going according to plan, will oblige you there.
All right, so he drops back and holds out a gun to Sergei, who probably takes it and holds it like this. And at that moment, Babette comes storming out of the mist, dragging her two daughters by the ears.
Less empowering than I was thinking, Mother, but okay.
She strides out to the middle, stands in between the two boys with their guns, like, grabs Vaza, pushes you forward and says, "Talk."
I didn't know that they were going to fight a duel, Mother. That's not my fault. I was going to tell them, and then
Talk to Sergei.
Sergei.
Yes?
Sergei Maximovich Karavasov. I owe you the deepest and most sincere apology because I have misled you. I think that it is impossible for me to marry you, and I do not think that you should go through with a duel in my honor to claim my hand in marriage, because I am not a prize to be won, first of all. And secondly,
That's right.
I don't terribly like you. And I don't think you terribly like me. We don't have anything to talk about. And I'm very confused as to why you are here now. Now, him, Ilya, I can understand. I can understand why he has done this.
Enough. Points at Ilya. Talk.
Me talk?
You talk.
Oh, good God, talk, Rostov.
Everyone's doing a lot of yelling. I did this thing, and I had a feeling that your mother would look at me like that, because the things we talked about in the listen, I would like to marry you, and I would like it if you did not marry him. And I was trying to make it so that your reputation would not be besmirched the way that my reputation was
Not
besmirched.
talking.
Okay, I'm being quiet now.
Grab Svetlana. Talk.
Sorry, my mind blanked for a moment. I think Svetlana is just like, this. I think she's a bit shell shocked. Like, what? I this is well beyond prime functions. This is all a bit much, isn't it?
I have no wish to duel anyone.
Sergei Maximovich Karavasov, you are a charming boy. Do you love my daughter? Not that one, this one.
Vasia is also very very charming.
I will take a gun. And I will simplify this problem by canceling the factors.
Are you using that as a metaphor to describe killing me?
I haven't decided who I'm going to kill yet.
I would, to be quite perfectly frank, would strongly prefer to marry Sveta to Vasya. Sorry, Vasya, I apologize. You are one of the most beautiful women. But
This is no
Maybe don't say
doubt,
that in front of your future wife.
this is no doubt probably somewhat my fault, Sergei Maximovich. You were
I don't
very
understand how it's your fault that your daughter
because
Sveta is one of the best conversationalists and the most charming, educated, intelligent people I have ever met, and I could
But-
spend forever talking to her.
I wouldn't describe
turns,
it
looks
as
at
that,
Sveta.
but
Sveta? Really? Okay. When you first visited us last year, I saw how enchanted you are with my children, and I just assumed that you were interested in Vasya because Vasa was interested in you for a moment. But all can be put to right eventually. No. Louis will fix everything. Yep, that's what I'm going to go with. Fine. I accept your honest and eloquent suit of marriage for my daughter if she accepts.
Which one was you talking to?
I can do it more appropriately if Vasya will release me from our engagement.
consider yourself released. Yes, of course.
The ring.
Oh, of course. Yes, here.
I put that one in my pocket and kneel to Vasya.
No,
Oh,
not
sorry,
like
Sveta, sorry.
come by tomorrow, do this correctly. Yes?
I would almost prefer to do it now if Sveta is,
Fine.
whenever Sveta believes it's appropriate.
Uh,
Oh my god.
Well, I would prefer to do things in the proper manner. This is all terribly uncouth. And if you kneel down here at this creek, it would terribly soil your trousers, wouldn't it? So perhaps it's best to do this tomorrow at at a more at perhaps a less raucous place. This is all quite improper.
Is 2 p.m. appropriate? I can bring my father. He will, after all, want to bless the new union, as I'm sure your mother and father will.
They are going to be married for 50 years and have 10 children.
It seems like an unusually high number of children, madam. I, of course,
That's true. It's also not a prime number.
I am sure that 5 or 7 would be more appropriate. Would not you think, Sveta?
Yes, I do think 7 is
Or 11,
about the-
if you want that many.
Oh my god.
Sorry, my mind just found those 11 children. One of them's gonna be Connie. Oh my god.
Ilya is just staring at Lise like,
Now, as for
That was a
you,
joke. I'm very sorry.
as for you, Rostov,
yes, ma'am.
do you think I'm going to let my daughter marry some ensign?
No, ma'am.
That's correct. Do you intend to stay in the military? In which case, I surely expect you to be a lieutenant.
Yes, ma'am.
However, if you don't want to stay in the military, my husband will soon have an influential enough position that I'm sure something could be found for you in the civil service that would give you time to write.
Respectfully, ma'am, I would like to make it to the rank of lieutenant so that I might be worthy of your daughter, and then perhaps we can speak about opportunities outside of the military.
All right, then. Vasya, is that acceptable to you to wait a little longer?
Yes, mother. I am more than happy with this new arrangement and understanding.
Oh, good. I'm so glad we all have a happy ending now.
And I think as we like start to walk back towards the house, I like drift over to Vasya and I'm like, will she ever stop being angry with me?
I don't know that she'll ever stop being angry at all. I think we have maybe permanently broken my mother.
And he sort of reaches over and he takes your hand as we walk up towards the house and says, I feel both really terribly and happier than I've ever been.
I am simultaneously elated and terrified.
If folks are willing to indulge, we could do quick epilogues to just see where people end up.
Can I think my epilogue is going to be one short scene with Natalia and Stas.
Yes.
I think like everyone has drifted off from whatever the heck happened there at the creek. Drifted back. I think Natalia was just gonna like waft towards where Stas was. Clearly, she's been having a good time at the ball and not joined anyone outside. And she sees Stas and it's like, well, looks like everything got all. Sounds like everything got all sorted.
Well, Babette managed to prevent an execution. So that seems, I doubt it was actually going to be an execution, but there was always a chance.
One can't be too careful, especially in these times. Sounds like everyone got their happy ending.
Almost. What's next for you? What happened in Paris?
Well, I think like Natalia tries to like laugh it off, but you can tell there's like the laugh is more like she tried to summon a laugh rather than she laughed, you know? Well, let's just say that, well, I suppose my story's not over yet, is it?
Are any of our stories over? Everyone keeps talking about a happy ending, but we still have to wake up tomorrow and live with it.
Well, unlike the rest of you, you're closer to happiness compared to others.
I'm closer to leaving Russia for good.
Ooh. I see. You're, I assume, in hot pursuit of a rather dashing Prussian.
He is, by birth, Bohemian.
See, that just makes it sound even saucier.
I have decided to begin teaching in Prague. I am certain that my decision will be honored by at least one of the institutions of learning there. After all, I'm told I'm irresistible.
Well, they're not wrong.
But you have steadfastly resisted any of my charms every time I try to pull one over on you.
And yet, why have I been drawn to trying to lift you up to where I think you should be? I'd like to think I've succeeded on that front. You're off.
Have I? Have you?
Well,
I'm still a wastrel who's going to move to Prague and become a teacher. Or what if I become a novelist?
oh, but the details don't matter, Slava. What matters is that you're pursuing what or who you want, which is really all I ever wanted for you. And at the very least, one of us, well, getting closer to that happy ending.
And what about the other of us?
Well, like I said, one's closer compared to the other. Shall we dance? Do you want to dance? I'd like to dance. Come, let's dance.
And I think that ends with us dancing.
Yeah.
So what does it look like for Ilya in the future?
I quick confab with my future wife. Happy marriage for sure, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. I think we fast forward in time, and you can feel free to, like, maybe we'll just do like a little mini scene with the two of us, and Babette can feel free to be involved if she thinks that she doesn't maybe hate me.
Doesn't hate you. She's
In
just
years.
angry at you. That's her love language.
It's fair. It's fair. And we see Ilyusha sort of walking through the back garden, holding the hand of a toddler with like really curly dark hair, and saying, "We're going to go see your grandmother, and you have to be polite." And the child's just looking at him with that look that says, "I've never been polite in my life, and I don't understand what you're saying." We've had this conversation more than once. And if you're polite, I promise I'll give you cookies later. Yes.
Now, darling, you mustn't spoil Victor Ilyach's dinner. Just because he knows that he's going to see his grandmother, and he will be on his best behavior, won't you, Victor?
He'll be on his best behavior, especially when he knows he is going to get to have cookies after bedtime.
We will agree to disagree on that.
I like it when I get to have cookies after bedtime.
Well, that is one thing we both agree on there.
It's a family trait. Does your mother like cookies after bedtime? Would it make her seem less cross with me about the whole incident a few weeks ago with the vase and the shrieking?
It's better not to tempt fate. Don't mention it at all.
No, but what if I just give her the cookies?
I think she will still bring up the vase.
I think that counts as mentioning it. You're probably right. Yeah, I don't know if I need much more than just like cute, sweet family moment, because I think it's cute and sweet.
Also, I'm holding our younger daughter in my arms because she's still too young.
Yeah, it's just a much grayer Babette comes out like, oh, there's my little Victiac. Oh, my little one. How are you? You are so handsome. Darling daughter. Count.
Princess. I brought you cookies.
Oh no.
Leave them on the table.
I will. They have raspberries.
I think Babette's epilogue would just be, it would be much closer in time. She would just be sitting at breakfast with her husband, finally. They're sitting down to coffee, and they're extremely lovey-dovey. They still are after all these years. But he's like reading an English newspaper, and she's going through the correspondence, like, oh, a letter from England. It's probably that damn school of Svetlana's. Probably want more money, and rips it open, reads it. Coffee cup hits the ground because it's the letter from Mrs. Cavendish in England, aka Vasya Ivanova. I think that's it.
I have a separate epilogue from
Oh yeah,
from Ilya's. So this is many, 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 many years later, and so Vasya has grown up and seen her children have children, and those children have children, and I think that she probably did outlast Ilya in the end, but like
Yeah.
she's there and she's surrounded by her family, including, a young Connie and things like that. Like in all of the family that's grown from Sveta's family and things like that. And she's sitting at a desk and she's reading from a treasure box that is just full of the letters that Ilya and Vasya sent each other through the entirety of their lives. Even when they lived together, their correspondence never ended, and they continued just to pour out bottles and bottles of ink on each other for the rest of their lives.
Oh, that's so
I love it. It's really cute. Yeah, he never stopped writing her poetry the way that people normally do, where they start dating and then the poems get really short and then they stop completely.
And he was very patient as she started to write poetry as well. And
yeah, he worked really hard on that patience thing.
Yep. They grew together. It's fine.
What about you, Richard?
I feel like the I feel like we're in the 30s. So a very much older, like 50s or 60s, Stas is walking through the streets of Prague, talking in Czech to people who walk by. It's Czech because the subtitles say Czech. This has been a multilingual thing the whole time. And then he enters one of those new cafes near the university, where there's just coffee all the time. And he sees someone and he goes to sit down by them. And he takes out an envelope from under his arm and slides a manuscript over to Natasha. And begins talking in Russian about what's going on in Moscow and how he really would like her opinion of his next attempt to get published and get paid for once. And then I think that would be the conclusion of Stas's story.
We got a happy one.
We got a happy one.
We did it.
Oh, everyone else got a happy one.
Oh, we don't know. We don't know if Natalia, found another lady love, right?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Maybe I've set it up so she can come back in the future. Who's to say?
Hey,
Her own sequel.
we're officially in the recursive portion of this now. So
We're just.
I have been reading Dostoevsky's The Idiot, which is going down much better than almost any Dostoevsky I've ever read. I'm still not convinced that Dostoevsky's society is possible, but I'll continue the impossible dream.
I believe in us.
I don't know that good society is the right game for it is all.
It's fair.
I don't know. Maybe. It's just I'd have to change a bunch of the assumptions. Because
I have confidence that we can good society almost anything.
It's like, Oh, sure. We'll just do Brothers Karamazov. What's this one about? Oh, a father and son fall in love with the same prostitute. Then the father gets brutally murdered. Oh, Crime and Punishment.
The epistemic, the epistolary phase is
Yeah.
just that is like goes on for 5 hours because it's a whole nother novel.
Right. Oh, Crime and Punishment. A man kills a pawnbroker because Napoleon. Then is redeemed by the love of a virtuous prostitute.
I mean, to be fair, he did kill the pawnbroker also for money.
Dostoevsky. I mean,
Oh,
listen,
okay, let's go. But the idiot. All right, a very sweet Christ-like figure. This is great. Who attends the auction of a woman who has been groomed since childhood by a nobleman.
I mean, but hear me out. Here's the thing. Hear me out. Dumas Society.
Oh no! Don't trust me, folks. When we do finally run out of Russians to do, we're gonna start again with French society.
I mean, I'm not kidding. I have read so much Dumas this last year.
I'm not super familiar with Dumas. I was thinking that we would maybe start with, basically Dangerous Liaison Society
Nice.
and work
Yeah.
our way up. But
Oh yeah, that sounds great.
mean, Bovary Society is a fucking no-brainer.
Yeah. I will say, I read Count of Monte Cristo, and it was basically just Alexandre Dumas making fun of French people.
Yes.
For like 20,000 pages.
Yes.
Like, it's just like, oh, remember that time somebody was an idiot and I was smarter than them because they're French?
I worked out a short list, but it's like Flaubert and Stendhal, and we could squeeze Dumas in there somewhere, and Maupassant.
The
Maybe
thing about
Zola
Dumas is that
and
there's always
Balzac.
a bunch of little like contained stories, so that can be really fun to get to like spin off.
I mean, obviously we'd have to have Hugo in there somewhere. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just schedule an 8-session run of Good Society. I'll
sounds
handle Victor Hugo.
Hear me out.
Well, I'll play 6
Phantom of
characters.
the Opera Society.
Definitely doable.
I will point out, Dumas has a posthumously published Robin Hood novel.
Oh my god, I did not. Wait,
His loops.
Père or Fils?
I'm sorry?
Père or Fils? Alexandra or?
Alexandra.
Oh, okay.
Yes, please.
I mean, hey.
Yeah.
But to wrap this all up with a bow, I mean, that would be another African descended writer that we would base our stuff on, because Pushkin famously was descended from a African Muslim who got into the service of Peter the Great and was like one of his favorite dudes.
Love it.
Yeah, he actually tried to write a story about Hannibal or Hannibal.
Yeah.
But he didn't finish it. But yeah.
Can I just say as the final note that I like that we name dropped both Pushkin and Good Society? Really proud of us.
We did well. Thank you, folks, for putting up. Sorry we didn't get 5 episodes in this time, but you plan for 5, you get 4 great bits, and that's what we did. So we'll see you all next year. Let's hope. Oh, what is your full name? It's 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 the name. I'm gonna fix this in post. Yeah, I think you meant my son.
Your son, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. We'll fix it in post.
Countess Linskaya, of course. Once again with the no, that's too mean. Yeah.
This is gonna go
Super good party, not going to shoot anybody. It's going to be fine.
This is gonna go very well.
It's going to go great.
Yeah,
We're only going to shoot one person. Maybe a stabbing, you know. You never know. Yeah, a little light poisoning.
Isn't it a challenge to get to the choice of weapons?
It doesn't matter because love is going to murder him. That's fair. That's fair. Vasya is the poisoner.
Poisoning is my thing.
I'm gonna have to pick a different.
Yeah.
Mode of murder.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Suicide with
Yeah.
razor was apparently my thing, so hey.
Hey.
Hey.